folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this is Franchise Frenzy, the Part 5's. And this was created by The Horror Man and Horrific Nightmares JM. Now this list is a little bit shorter because we did lose a few franchises that ended, and that was the Tombs of the Blind Dead franchise, the Sleepaway Camp franchise, Jaws, and Universal Dracula. So let's get into it, shall we? In at number 21 is Seed of Chucky. Now, I don't own this one because I don't care to. It's definitely easily my least favorite of the franchise. Yeah, I feel like what they got right with Bride of Chucky, injecting a lot of humor into it, and it was very tongue-in-cheek. But I feel like there was still sufficient horror there, you know, and they had a great cast as well. And you had the debut of Jennifer Tilly playing Tiffany. And, yeah, it had a lot of cool stuff going for it. Whereas this one, they just jumped the shark. They went way overboard with the comedy. This is a full-blown comedy. Very little horror in it. It's just a straight-up comedy, and I just really don't care for it. I did see it in theaters too, and maybe the only good thing about it is it had a decent soundtrack. Alright, in at number 20 is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. Another one I really don't care for. This is where the Elm Street franchise starts to lose me. Another case where I feel like Freddy at this point is becoming a parody of what he was at the beginning, you know. He's just like a stand-up comedian, basically cracking jokes. It's kind of sad because I feel like this one did have potential at the beginning. It was very dark, you know, looking into Freddy's origins a little bit there with Amanda Kruger. And, you know, how she was raped by 100 maniacs, you know, that was really dark stuff, and, I feel like this could have been a real return to form for the series, but they blew it by putting in too much comedy and too many one-liners for Freddy, you know. Next up is Psycho, the remake, from Gus Van Sant. Definitely not a well-liked remake. They decided to go for a straight-up shot-for-shot remake of Alfred Hitchcock's classic, and I just really don't see the point of it. It's not even that it's a badly made film. It actually does look pretty good, and it's pretty well made, but what is the point? I mean, do you honestly think you're going to direct it better than Alfred Hitchcock or something? Like, you can't fix a masterpiece, you know. I don't understand. The only thing different about it is it's in color and, you know, people wearing modern clothes. I don't know. Next up we have Puppet Master 5, which is a decent entry in this series. Not quite as good as the others in my opinion. I feel like this is where the Puppet franchise starts to lose me a little bit, but, you know, it's solid enough, it's watchable. Next up, we have the Omen remake from 2006. And yeah, this is a very similar case to Psycho, where it's almost pretty much beat for beat, you know. Not quite to the extent of Psycho, but really all the same stuff happens that happens in the original film. Once again, yeah, it's a well-made film, you know, you got a solid cast there with Liev Schreiber. He actually does a great job, but, you know, you're trying to fill his shoes of Gregory Peck, you know. You're talking about, once again, the Omen, the original Omen is a masterpiece. Why mess with it, you know? I don't get it. Especially, why do the same thing? At least if they could have brought something new to the table, maybe it could have been interesting, but For example, look at the new Omen film, you know. Next up, we have Leprechaun in the Hood. And yeah, I enjoy this series, and I always thought it's so much fun, and they always make me laugh, and this one maybe goes a little bit too far, and that's saying a lot for the Leprechaun series. But still, it does make me chuckle a little bit. I love when the Leprechaun takes on the whole police force at one point. It's pretty funny. Next up, we have Hellraiser Inferno. Definitely a noticeably smaller budget here. And this is kind of where they started making random Hellraiser films that weren't actually meant to be Hellraiser films. I believe this was a story for a different film, but they just like threw Pinhead in there and was just like, yeah, let's call it a Hellraiser movie. Maybe we'll like, make some money off of it. The funny thing is, I actually enjoy this one better than Bloodline, because I really don't enjoy Bloodline. This film actually was fairly decent, you know, and really enjoyed Doug Bradley's performance in this one. Next up, we have Alien versus Predator. Yes, the big crossover. And I really enjoy this film. I think it's a lot of fun. This is just the kind of movie where you have to kind of turn your brain off, because if you try and analyze it too much, you will not enjoy it, you know. Just take it for what it is, a fun sci-fi action movie with some kick-ass action scenes and some great special effects, and just seeing these iconic monsters go at it, you know, is great, you know. Actually, I think the setup is pretty decent, you know. Next up, we have a film that did not go over well, and that is Phantasm Ravager. This is definitely the least well-liked of the franchise, I would say. And unfortunately, it is the final film in the franchise. And it's the only one that Don Coscarelli didn't direct. He still was heavily involved in it, but he didn't actually direct this one. That might have something to do with it. I feel like there's definitely too much CGI in here. There's a little too much with the spheres, but other than that, honestly, I still enjoy this film. I do get a kick out of it. I think there's a lot of cool stuff in here, and I think it's right in line with the other films. I like the fact that they brought back Kat Lester to play like kind of the female version of the tall man, you know, when he shape-shifts. So that was kind of cool to see her come back. Yeah, but this is it's all the return of Jebediah Morningside, you know. I liked seeing that different side of the tall man, too. I thought that was cool. And yeah, Reggie Bannister once again kicking ass. We even got a little cameo from Rocky there from Phantasm 3. That was cool. Next up, we have Annabelle Creation, which a lot of people would say is the superior film to the original. And yeah, I would have to agree with that. It's definitely better made. It's a better story, better acting. Yeah, everything's better, really. And I actually did enjoy Annabelle, the first one, but a lot of people didn't. Next up, we have George Romero's Diary of the Dead, which brings the Dead series into the kind of found footage style film. So they did kind of jump on the found footage bandwagon, because that's what was happening at the time, you know, after Blair Witch and stuff like Cloverfield and all that. And I think this is pretty solid. I think that style of film does work for the zombie genre, actually. I think it's pretty well made. I definitely enjoy it more than Land of the Dead, although this one definitely had a smaller budget than Land of the Dead, and I kind of like that, because I feel like George Romero works better with a smaller budget, where I feel the big budget Land of the Dead didn't work for me. Next up, we have Resident Evil Retribution, which I think is one of the best in the franchise. I think it's definitely better than Afterlife was. Really, really cool action, great special effects, and this one's a lot of fun. I like some of the scenes where Alice is kind of dreaming about a time, before the zombies came. When she was just chilling at her house, with her boyfriend, just living normal until, of course, the zombies knock at the door and start invading their house, and all hell breaks loose. So yeah, this is a really fun one. I think it is one of the best in the franchise. Next up, we have Saw 5. Yeah, another solid entry in the franchise, along with 4, and I think it works well back to back with Part 4, because you get some of the same returning characters. I think it's solid. It's nothing spectacular, but I think it's a good follow-up. Next up, we have the most recent Evil Dead film, and that is Evil Dead Rise. I feel like this one was kind of a surprise hit for a lot of people. People weren't even expecting another Evil Dead film where they had the remake, but I feel like this film meshes the best of the Evil Dead remake and brings some of the spirit of the original films with Ash and everything, and I think it's a great balance, and it's got probably the best Deadite performance in this film from the mother there. Really solid film, really enjoy it. Super gory, super fun, action-packed, and it's got some scary moments too. Here's a film that you might be shocked is this high up, and that is a film that is pretty controversial when it comes to the Friday 13th franchise, and that is Part 5, A New Beginning. This film, I don't understand why it gets so much hate, because I really enjoy it. I think in a lot of ways it is like kind of the stereotypical Friday the 13th movie, but even better because I love the characters in this film. They're just wild, crazy, off the wall. There's a lot of really funny stuff in this film too. You gotta love the Ethel character and her son are just like nuts. You got Deborah Voorhees in this film. Pretty sure she was probably hired for her name. But at any rate, I still enjoy her character. She does a great job. I did have a chance to interview Debbie Sue Voorhees too, as part of the Morbid Hour series, so check that out. Next up, we have Scream 5, or as it was released, it was just called Scream. And that title itself is kind of part of the joke, because that's kind of, this movie explores the ideal of requels, films that are sequels using some of the legacy characters, but adding some new young blood to the franchise as well, and some new style and direction. And that's exactly what this movie is. And it works, it really works. And this is the first film without Wes Craven's involvement, so unfortunately he did pass away. So that's tough shoes to fill, but I think they did a great job, and yeah, I really enjoy this film. Alright, here's where I might lose a lot of people, the fact that I have this film that high, but it is what it is, because I love Halloween 5. I don't give a damn. And I think it goes really well with Halloween 4. I know it's a flawed film, believe me. I know. But I also think there's a lot of great stuff here that people don't see. I love the fact that Michael drives again, and then I always thought that was one of those cool, mysterious qualities that Michael had, is he drives, where... And that makes him stand out from all the other slasher killers, he stalks when he drives, and really cool. And yeah, I do like Don Shanks as Michael this time, and yeah. Some of the things that bother people about this movie don't bother me, like the fact that, Rachel was killed off fairly early. That didn't really bother me, because I think they did it with class, whereas originally they were planning to really give her a brutal, nasty murder, but I think the way they did it, it was had some class to it, you know. And I did like the idea that Jamie was a mutant. I know a lot of people hate that, but to me it made sense that she was traumatized from what she did at the end of the fourth film, you know. And I was kind of happy that they didn't just make Jamie Lloyd the killer, because it might be a little weird with just a movie centered around this little girl going around stabbing people. I don't know if that would have worked quite as well. I definitely was happy that they brought Michael back, you know. So yeah, I enjoy Halloween 5. Next up, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake from 2003. Definitely one of the better remakes of recent memory. Definitely do enjoy the film. And I know a lot of people love it, and some people even like it even better than the original. And not me personally, but I definitely think it is a solid remake. This is a very good movie. I can't deny it, how well made it is, and you got a great young cast led by Jessica Biel there. And of course you got R. Lee Ermey as the crazy, insane sheriff. And yeah, once again you have a new family here to go along with. And this version of Leatherface is solid too. Really scary, really intense, really intimidating. And this film also brings the gore too, where we didn't really see the gore in the original film, was more implied. Here we get to see the gore, and it's really well done. It's really intense. Definitely a solid remake. Next up is Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. Absolutely love that title. This is the fifth film in Hammer's Frankenstein series, starring the great Peter Cushing as Victor Frankenstein. And what's so great about this one is just how evil this version of Victor Frankenstein is. I mean, he is just a real bastard in this one. He's a straight-up serial killer, taking people out in the streets, decapitating them, and using them for his insane experiments, where as the first couple films in the series, you know, he had some redeeming qualities, but there's no redeeming qualities in this version of Victor Frankenstein. He even rapes Veronica Carlson in one scene, which a lot of people had a problem with and thought that was out of character. And it is definitely disturbing to watch, but I don't know if it's that out of character for this version of Victor Frankenstein. As far as the monster goes, it's not really all that exciting. They just take this brilliant guy's brain and transplant it into another body. So it's not like a collection of human body parts. So that part isn't as exciting, but what is the brilliant performance by Peter Cushing once again. Next up, we have Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. Yeah, probably the first versus movie in horror. Absolutely love this movie. It's such a blast. Here, Bela Lugosi actually takes on the mantle of the monster. And of course, you have Lon Chaney Jr. returning as the Wolfman. Can't say enough about Lon Chaney Jr. He is so great in all these movies because he returns every time. He's in House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and of course, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And every time he's just brilliant in that role. He just owns that role. And as far as the monster goes, Bela Lugosi is maybe a little bit off. He's noticeably shorter this time around. And I feel like his mannerisms may be a little bit over the top at times, but it's still a lot of fun to watch. And when they have the big battle at the end, you know, the monster versus the Wolfman, it's such a riot. And in that #1 Hammer horror, baby, it is Taste the Blood of Dracula. I mean, is there a better name in any horror movie? Absolutely love it. Yeah, this film has some of the best gothic atmosphere I've ever seen in a horror movie. I mean, it's amazing. I also think this is probably the best story in the Hammer Dracula series. Story-wise, it's so great. I love it. And originally this wasn't supposed to have Christopher Lee in it, but the movie studio interfered and said, we want Christopher Lee back, because originally they were going to have Ralph Bates kind of take on the mantle. But Ralph Bates is still in the film as Laurie Courtley, and he does a great job, and I'm glad they brought Christopher Lee back, because it's awesome, and Christopher Lee is always awesome, even though he doesn't have a whole lot of lines in this film. Just his presence is so menacing. I love this film. Incredible. I love Linda Hayden in the film. Great cast. Great acting. I love John Carson in there. Yeah, awesome, awesome movie. So taste the blood of Dracula in at number 1. Thank you for joining me for Franchise Frenzy, the Part 5's, which was created by the Horror Man and Horrific Nightmares JM. Thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Good evening, folks, and we got some brand new merchandise for you over at www.thehorrorcona.com, and that's CONA.com. Representing the Horror Corner. Great new design. We got the Morbid Hour live stream there, you got the Horror Hangout live stream there, and you got my nemesis, the Dark Fate. So grab your t-shirt over at www.thehorrorcona.com. And we also got this beautiful new mug. Look at that. Very, very cool. Thought that came out really nice. So grab your merchandise today over at www.thehorrorcona.com. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Erschen gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have. Perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.